Hello everyone from the Costa del Stretton. The sun is shining bright in the blue sky and all is fairly tranquil here. I hope you're having a lovely day. And the story I have to tell for you this evening is all about bedtime stories. So I hope it works for you as one as well. It's a story that starts with a father called James and a son called Tom. It hadn't always been James' job to tell bedtime stories. Once, his late wife had told him. Oh, she was brilliant. She spun stories like a master weaver spins loom. But alas, she was telling tales to a more angelic crowd, thought James. So he took it upon himself to tell tales at bedtime to his son, Tom, the son he loved more than anything in the world. There was just one small problem. James' bedtime stories were terrible. I mean awful, dreadful. I know it sounds harsh, but honestly. You see, without rhyme or reason, names would change, elephants could become squirrels, and things would just go abruptly wrong, and stuff was just all over the place, like the weather in spring. Before James could think of an ending, he'd forgotten what his beginning was. His stories were truly terrible. You don't believe me, do you? I've actually got some examples here because I didn't think you would. I've got 3, right? Here's the first one. Once upon a sausage, there was a beautiful princess who lived in a very small tower. Her name was Keith, and she also happened to be an elephant that played the saxophone on Tuesdays. One day, Keith received a call from a cunning witch who was also called Keith. And the witch wanted to steal Keith the Elephant Princess's saxophone. But fortunately, Keith the Elephant always remembered to lock the door behind her, and so the saxophone was safe. The end. That was bad, wasn't it? It gets worse. Not very long ago, a cow called Gertrude rode a bike to the moon. Don't ask me how she did that, I don't know. But she did it. I know it seems silly, but honestly, she did. When she got there, she had an argument with a tiger called Clive about how to drink tea, and both of them were very upset. So Clive the cow bought Mildred the ostrich a new scooter, and they all went to Disneyland. The end. See? No plot, no structure. Where's the drama? Shocking. It gets worse. Last Tuesday lunchtime, I locked myself out of the car and then couldn't find my keys. An alligator said he had them, but then turned into a pumpkin after a little girl with a red hood tried to eat a wolf who was also her granny. It turned out that the keys were in my pocket all along, and I got pizza on the way home and had ice cream for dessert. The end. Just utterly dreadful. Shocking. You see, once James' son had leapt, laughed and jumped with joy at the tales told to him. Now he was always asleep before they were over. In those moments, James would wish for nothing more than to be able to tell just one good bedtime story. But alas, it seemed to be beyond him. It seemed to be beyond him. When Tam was asleep, he would kiss his forehead, tuck him into bed and turn off the light with a sigh. And he would wish again to be able to tell just one good bedtime story. Now, time passed as it must, and Tom and James got on about as well as a father and son can. James may not have been a good storyteller, but he was always there. When Tom played football, James would stand at the side and clap and shout even though he really didn't understand football. At Tom's dance show, he whooped and cheered as Tom didn't exactly steal the show, but he did his best. And during a very serious moment in a Shakespeare play, James laughed very hard. But this, Tom only appreciated the more. And time continued to pass as it must, and Tom became an adult. James was there at his graduation from school and university. He was there on the day that Tom kissed his new and wonderful husband, and on the day that they brought home 2 beautiful shining twins. James cried. And time passed on as it must. And with it fading in James' own story, he found himself surrounded by his loving family, son-in-law, and Tom, the son he still loved more than anything in the world. And to all of them, he expressed he had no regrets. But when it was just him and Tom, with a lump in his throat, he revealed that he had one. That he was never able to tell a good bedtime story. It had stayed with him. This idea that his mother had once done such a good job and he'd only tried to replace those stories, but he couldn't. And for that, he was so sorry. You can imagine Tom's face confusing James a lot when all he did was laugh and laugh and laugh. Tom revealed that although James' stories were, well, hardly perfect, well, they were awful in fact, in their own way they were exactly what he needed. He would have never wanted anything to replace his mother's tellings, and so he thought his father's were pretty good. And in fact, even to that very day, if ever he was unable to sleep through stress or sorrow, he would simply think of one of those genuinely dreadful bedtime stories and laugh, and it wouldn't be long before he had drifted off. In fact, he asked his dad if he could tell one more. And with time fading in James' own story, a smile on his face and in his heart, he told his very last bedtime tale. It was actually quite good, but that is a story for another evening. Thank you very much, everyone, and have a wonderful